The Palace of Screams. The Palace of Vexilin Prime shone like a jewel under the fire of 3 suns. Its crystal towers stretched into the red sky, glowing as if they were alive. The outside looked like a dream, but inside, the halls shook with noise and chaos. From the royal nursery came the sound of crashing furniture, high-pitched laughter, and the terrified scream of yet another nanny. The massive doors burst open, and a tall alien with 6 arms and shaking tentacles rushed out. Her eyes, 6 glowing orbs, were wide with fear. She cried, "I resign, effective immediately," and pushed past the guards. "Those twins are monsters," she shouted, leaving trails of pheromones that made the air sting. First Minister Krex, the Queen's right hand, stood frozen, his long, scaled body, usually polished and strong, sagged with defeat. "The 15th nanny this month," he whispered. His compound eyes blinked slowly, showing stress. The nursery roared again from within, a crash that made the walls tremble. Down the corridor, a human janitor paused in his work. Ryan Mitchell wiped the sweat from his face. The heat of Vexilin Prime was unbearable, and the janitor uniform made for exothermic aliens felt like a prison of cloth. He pushed an auto mop across the shiny marble floor. Pretending not to notice the storm of noise nearby, Ryan had been on this planet for 6 months. He had taken the job because the pay was triple what he could earn back on Earth. His sister needed medicine, and this was the only way to afford it, so he stayed. Even if the heat cooked him alive and the aliens looked at him like a strange insect. The auto mop beeped, detecting a spill. Ryan guided it to a puddle of glowing purple slime that had leaked from the nursery. He bent down to clean, but the sound of shattering glass made him freeze. The doors slammed open again, and Krex's head swiveled toward Ryan. "You, human," Krex said sharply, his voice carried authority. "You observe this chaos," Ryan stiffened. "Sorry, sir," he said quickly. "Just doing my job." Krex's antenna twitched, a sign of heavy thought. "You are the one who repaired the throne room's regulator last week," Ryan swallowed. "Yes, sir, but it was only a temporary fix," he remembered that day. The engineers had failed, but Ryan had improvised a bypass using tricks from his old career as a maintenance engineer on lunar colonies. He had been good at that work, until an accident ruined his record. Now he was just a janitor, but Krex's compound eyes studied him like a tool waiting to be used. "Humans are problem solvers," the minister said slowly. "Adaptive, unorthodox, persistent." Another crash came from the nursery, followed by cruel giggles. Krex's mandibles clicked. "The Queen's heirs need a caretaker. The summit begins tomorrow. She cannot face the galaxy with this weakness." "You will watch the twins," Ryan blinked in shock. "Me? I'm just a janitor. I don't know anything about children, especially alien children." Krex's antenna curved downward like a blade. "Then you will learn, or you will be deported. Your contract will be ended. The Queen must not be embarrassed." Ryan's stomach twisted. He thought of his sister on Earth, waiting for his paychecks to cover her medical treatments. If he was deported, she would be helpless. "How long?" he asked quietly. 3 cycles. "Perhaps 4, Krex said, and then with no more words, he pressed his clawed hand to the nursery scanner. The heavy doors opened, glowing light spilled out. Krex pushed Ryan inside and sealed the doors behind him with a hiss that sounded final. Ryan stood still, his eyes widened at the sight before him. The nursery looked like the aftermath of a hurricane. Furniture floated in the air as if gravity was broken. Glowing fluids crawled down the walls in wild colors. Toys and learning tablets were scattered everywhere. Some of the furniture spun lazily near the ceiling, and in the center of the chaos sat 2 small figures, the heirs of Queen Zorana. At first glance, they looked like children, about the size of human 4-year-olds, but their carapaces shimmered like liquid glass, shifting colors with their moods right now. Their shells pulsed in bright red, the universal color of warning. Hello," Ryan said nervously, forcing a weak smile. "I'm Ryan." Both twins turned at the same time. 12 compound eyes locked onto him, unblinking, sharp, alien. "You're not a nanny," said the one on the left. Its mandibles clicked as it spoke, yet the words were perfect English. "You're a cleaner," said the one on the right. "We don't like cleaners." Ryan's throat went dry. "Actually, I'm your new caretaker," he said, trying to sound calm. "Just temporarily." The twins exchanged a look, silent communication flashing between them. Then both grinned, their scales glowing green with mischief. "This human won't last long either," they said together, their voices echoing in perfect unison. Ryan stood alone in the storm of floating furniture and alien eyes. His heart pounded. His survival, and maybe the fate of his job, now depended on outsmarting the most dangerous thing in the palace. The twins' claws tapped the floor as they leaned closer, and one whispered, "Let's see how fast we can make him break." Games with monsters. Ryan took one careful step forward. The nursery hummed with unnatural energy. It felt less like a room for children and more like a battlefield. The air smelled of metal and sparks. The floating furniture rotated slowly above him. Casting strange shadows, the twins sat side by side. Their carapaces glowed faint green, the color of mischief. Their 12 compound eyes tracked his every move. They looked small, yes, but there was nothing innocent about them. "You are weak," said Zix, the one on the left. His voice was high but sharp, like a blade scratching glass. "You are soft," said Zack, the one on the right. "You will cry like the others." Ryan kept his face calm, though his chest tightened. He had survived construction accidents, starvation on mining ships, and even nights on frozen asteroids. But this was different. These weren't children. They were predators in training, maybe, Ryan said carefully. "Or maybe I'll surprise you." The twins tilted their heads in perfect unison. Their antennae twitched. For a moment, silence fell. Then a chair lifted off the ground and spun toward him at high speed. Ryan ducked. The chair smashed against the wall. Sparks flew. The twins burst into laughter. The sound was chilling. It was not childish laughter. It was the sound of creatures testing prey. Ryan's instincts screamed at him to run, but he forced himself to stand tall. He remembered Crex's words, "Adapt or be deported." His sister's face flashed in his mind. He clenched his fists. "You throw furniture because you're bored," Ryan said loudly. His voice echoed against the walls. "But board games are weak games." The twins froze. Their shells shifted from green to orange. Orange meant curiosity. Ryan had guessed right. Zack leaned forward. "What is a strong game then, human?" Ryan's mind raced. He could not overpower them. He could not outmatch alien powers, but maybe, just maybe, he could outthink them. "A strong game," Ryan said slowly, "is one that makes you think, one that makes you clever, one that no one else can beat you at." The twins' eyes glimmered. Zix rose to his feet, claws clicking. "Show us." "Human." Ryan glanced around the chaos. His eyes caught a pile of shattered learning tablets on the floor. He crouched, picked up the pieces, and fit them together like a puzzle. The screens flickered, broken but alive. He spread them out, wires exposed. "This is the game," Ryan said. "Make this machine work again. Whoever fixes it first is the cleverest twin." The twins hissed with interest. Their glowing shells turned blue, the color of challenge accepted. Zack leapt forward, claws dancing over the circuits. Sparks flew. Ryan stepped back. Keeping distance, the other twin joined in. But instead of working, he began to sabotage his brother's progress. The puzzle became chaos, wires twisting, sparks falling. Ryan realized fast, if he let this go on, the machine would explode. He rushed forward, grabbing wires with his bare hands, pain seared through his palms. But he guided the circuits into place. He worked like he used to on broken life support systems. Quick and desperate, the screen blinked. The machine came alive. Both twins froze. Their 12 eyes widened. The glow of their shells shifted again, this time to silver. Silver was rare. Silver meant respect. "You beat us," Zix whispered. "You fixed it," Zack said slowly. "No one fixes things here. They only order others to fix them." Ryan swallowed hard. His hands burned, but he forced a grin. "That's the thing about humans. We fix things no one else wants to touch." For the first time, the twins didn't laugh. They leaned closer, staring at him like hunters seeing prey transform into something dangerous. Their antennae touched lightly, a sign of shared thought. Finally, Zix said, "Maybe you will not cry today. Maybe you will last longer than the others," Zack added. The floating furniture slowly drifted down. The room calmed. Ryan could breathe again. But deep in his chest, he knew the game had only begun. He had won a round, not the war. The twins' eyes burned with new interest. They whispered to each other, their voices so soft he barely heard. "Let's make this human fun to break." Ryan felt cold. He had passed their first test, but he realized something far worse. The twins were no longer bored. Now they were curious, and curious monsters were always the most dangerous. That night, in the shadows of the palace halls, Minister Crex watched the nursery feed and muttered, "Perhaps the human is more dangerous than the twins themselves." The spy game. The palace slept under 3 moons, but the royal nursery did not inside. Glowing night lamps cast shifting colors on the walls. Ryan sat in a chair, his burned hands wrapped in cloth. His body was tired, but his mind refused to rest. The twins lay on the floor, whispering in their strange alien tongue. Their 12 eyes sparkled in the dark. They were not like human children who drifted to sleep after games. No, their energy only grew stronger in shadows. They studied him even when they pretended to rest. Ryan knew he had survived only the first test. If he failed the next, he was finished. The twins had power, yes. But they were also starving for something more dangerous than food. They were starving for purpose. The next morning, Minister Krex appeared, his scaled face unreadable, his voice sharp. The Galactic Summit begins in 3 cycles. The Queen demands her heirs appear disciplined if they disgrace her. You will be removed permanently, Ryan swallowed. What do you mean by permanently? Krex's antennae twitched. In Vexillonian culture, failure of duty is not forgiven. The meaning was clear. If Ryan failed, deportation would be mercy compared to what really awaited. When Krex left, the twins giggled. You heard him, Cleaner, Zix hissed. We will ruin the summit. Yes, Zack added. We will scream, break things, and make the galaxy laugh at our mother. Ryan stared at them. His mind raced. He could not force them to behave. He could not bribe them. They had no interest in rewards. Then an idea sparked. A memory from his own childhood. When his father used to trick him into behaving by turning chores into missions, Ryan leaned forward, lowering his voice. Do you know what spies are? The twins froze. Their glowing shells pulsed orange, the color of curiosity. Spies? They echoed together. Ryan nodded. Spies pretend to be polite, calm and boring, but inside they are watching. They are studying everyone in the room. A spy who can sit still and look innocent is the most dangerous of all. The twins blinked. Their mandibles twitched. Spies sound fun, Zack whispered. Spies sound clever, Zix agreed. Ryan hid his relief. He had their attention. If you want to win games no one else can play, then you must become spies at the summit. While everyone thinks you're quiet, little heirs, you will be the most powerful players in the room. The twins' shells flashed silver, the rare color of respect. They leaned closer, whispering in unison, Teach us. Human, and so the spy game began. Ryan taught them how to sit still without looking bored, how to smile when they wanted to scream, how to hide their antennae twitches so no one could read their emotions. He taught them how humans looked at faces to read truth, and how aliens betrayed themselves with tiny signals. At first, the twins struggled. They laughed when they should have been silent. They knocked over chairs just to test him, but Ryan stayed patient. He corrected them like an engineer repairing broken wires, calmly, firmly until they adjusted within days. The change was startling. The once wild twins could sit perfectly still on command, their 12 eyes unblinking, their shells glowing calm blue. But behind the stillness burned something sharper. They whispered codes to each other. Subtle antenna movements, claw taps on the floor. A secret language of spies. Ryan had given them a game, but they had sharpened it into a weapon. On the night before the summit, Queen Zorana herself came to inspect her children. She entered the nursery like a storm, her towering form covered in shimmering armor, her eyes fierce. Show me discipline, she ordered. Ryan's heart pounded. If the twins failed now, it was over. But Zix and Zack stood side by side, their glowing shells calm. Their eyes focused, they bowed in unison. They said softly, We honor you, Mother. For the first time, silence fell in the Queen's presence. Her compound eyes blinked, slowly, suspiciously. She circled them like a predator, searching for weakness, but the twins did not move. Not even when she hissed at them. Finally, she turned to Krex. How? She demanded. The minister bowed. The human has taught them. The Queen's antennae quivered with unease. She stared at Ryan, her voice low, dangerous. You give them control, Janitor, that is dangerous. Ryan forced himself to hold her gaze. I only gave them a game, Your Majesty. They chose to master it. The Queen studied him for a long moment. Then she left. Her heavy steps echoing. Ryan exhaled, but deep inside, he felt no victory. The Queen was right. He had given the twins something dangerous, and tomorrow, in front of the galaxy, that danger would either save him or destroy him. The day of the summit arrived. The grand hall of Vexillon Prime filled with alien leaders from every corner of the stars. The air shimmered with pheromones, heat and tension. At the center, Queen Zorana sat upon her throne. The twins stood at her side, calm and silent. Ryan watched from the shadows, his breath shallow. If they broke discipline now, he was finished. But the twins did not move. They stood like statues, their eyes scanning every ambassador, every twitch, every secret gesture. They looked bored, but Ryan knew better. Behind their stillness, they were spies, and then Ryan noticed it too. Something off. A delegate from the Proyan Empire kept adjusting his collar, tapping his claw twice against the table. No one else seemed to notice, but the twins' antennae flicked once. Their secret signal to Ryan. They had spotted something. A hidden code, a deception. Ryan's heart froze. The spy game was no longer a game, it was real. Just as the twins signaled again, alarms screamed through the palace. Explosions rocked the summit hall, and the galaxy's leaders cried out in terror. The breach had begun. The summit hall of Vexilin Prime glittered with crystal walls and banners from 100 worlds. Alien leaders filled the chamber, their voices rising in tense debate. The air was heavy with heat and pheromones. At the throne, Queen Zorana sat tall, her armor glowing with authority. Beside her, the twins stood perfectly still, the picture of discipline. Their glowing shells pulsed calm blue. Ryan watched from the shadows of the hall. His heart beat fast. The spy game was working so far. The airs looked calm, but he saw the flickers of movement in their antennae. Tiny signals. They were scanning the room like hunters. Then it happened. A vibration shook the floor, faint at first, then stronger. A deep rumble rose through the palace. The crystal walls trembled, and alarm screamed. Red lights burst across the hall. Guards shouted, the great doors slammed shut. Sealing the chamber, sabotage, Minister Krex hissed, his antennae whipping. The defenses are failing. Before Ryan could move, an explosion tore through the east wall. Fire and smoke filled the air. Alien leaders screamed, scrambling for cover. Soldiers in black armor stormed through the breach. Their weapons glowed red-hot. Their helmets bore the mark of the Proyan Empire. Ryan ducked, his ears rang. He searched for the twins. Through the smoke he saw them, still standing at their mother's side. Calm, unflinching. Their shells pulsed crimson now. The color of danger, take the airs, one of the attackers shouted. His voice sharp and guttural, Ryan's stomach dropped. The twins weren't just symbols, they were targets. Guards rushed forward, blades clashed. Plasma shots burned the air. The chamber became chaos. Ryan moved without thinking. He sprinted toward the twins, dodging blasts. He grabbed their arms. Come on, he shouted, but the twins didn't follow. Instead, they pulled him toward the side corridor, their 12 eyes glowing. Not that way, Zix hissed. They want us there. Ryan froze. How do you know? The twins spoke in perfect unison. We see their signals. They dragged him down the opposite hall past statues and broken glass. Smoke filled the air. Alarms screamed overhead. The palace shook like it was alive. They turned a corner, and Ryan saw where the twins were leading him. The environmental hub, a chamber filled with glowing conduits and spinning machinery. It was the heart of the palace's defense systems. Ryan's jaw clenched. He had seen this room once before during cleaning duty. It controlled atmosphere, power, even shields. If the Proyans had sabotaged it, he didn't need to guess. The panels sparked, wires hung loose. Systems flickered and died. The twins rushed forward. Claws flying across alien keys, their movements were too fast, too precise. Ryan stared in disbelief. These weren't normal children, they were processing data like machines. You can fix this? Ryan asked, his voice shaking. Yes, Zach hissed. They blinded the engineers with false code. But we see the patterns, Zix added. We think the way humans think. That is why their trick does not work on us. Ryan's heart pounded. This was the truth Krex had feared. The twins weren't just heirs, they were evolving, changing. Their minds were not purely Vexilonian anymore. Ryan dropped beside them, using his burned hands to twist wires. His engineering instincts kicked in. I'll handle the conduits. You stabilize the core. The twins' claws blurred. Sparks flew, systems roared back to life. Shields powered on. The palace trembled as defenses reactivated. Outside, explosions shook the skies. But the shields held. Ryan almost smiled in relief. But then a new voice cut through the chamber, deep and cold. Impressive human. Ryan spun. At the doorway stood a Proyan commander. His black armor gleamed. His weapon glowed like molten fire. Behind him, 2 soldiers dragged in a wounded guard and threw him to the ground. The commander's eyes, slit and glowing, locked on the twins. So it is true, the heirs are evolving. Their minds are dangerous. Ryan stepped in front of the children, his body tense, his throat dry. "You'll have to go through me," the commander sneered. "Do not worry, Janitor. We will keep you alive long enough to study why they trust you." He raised his weapon. Ryan's breath caught. He had no gun, no armor, no chance. But before the blast came, the twins stepped forward. Their shells pulsed silver, the color of pure focus. "Now," Six whispered. Zack extended his claws. The conduits behind him surged. Energy leapt into the air. The lights in the chamber flared blinding white. A shockwave burst outward, hurling the soldiers against the walls. The commander's armor sparked. He staggered, stunned. Ryan's eyes widened. What did you just—" The twins' voices overlapped in eerie harmony. "We used the palace, we made it obey us," the Proyan commander roared, dragging himself upright, but the twins were already moving. Their claws tapped a sequence on the control panel. Energy wrapped the chamber like chains, pinning the intruders to the ground. The commander's helmet cracked, his face twisted with rage. "You are abominations," he spat. "You will destroy us all." The twins leaned closer, their 12 eyes glowing bright. "No," they whispered. "We will change everything." Ryan grabbed their arms, pulling them back. "We have to move now." Together they ran, leaving the trapped soldiers screaming behind. The palace shook again as battles raged outside. But Ryan's thoughts spun faster than the alarms. The twins weren't just heirs. They weren't just clever children. They were something new. Something that scared their enemies and maybe their own mother. And he, a simple human janitor, was the only one they trusted that night. As the fires of battle burned outside, a captured scientist revealed the truth. Zix and Zack were not accidents of birth. They were the future of Vexillonian evolution, and only a human could guide them. The evolution secret, the fires of battle still burned across Vexillian Prime. The palace shook with aftershocks, though the shields now held strong. The enemy forces had been pushed back, but the scars of the attack were everywhere. Ryan sat on the cold floor of a guard chamber, his body bruised, his palms blistered from wires and fire. The twins crouched beside him, whispering in their alien tongue. Their glowing shells pulsed low silver, a color he had not seen before, calm yet sharp. The door slid open. Guards marched in, dragging a prisoner between them. A Proyan scientist, his armor scorched, his limbs shaking. His slit eyes burned with hatred even as chains bound him. Minister Krex entered behind them, his compound eyes focused on the prisoner. This one is not a soldier. He was caught inside the environmental hub before the breach. He planted the sabotage, the scientist spat, green liquid dripping. "Fools! You cannot stop what is already beginning." Ryan frowned, his gut twisted. He knew the look of a man who believed his words were heavier than his life. Krex signaled the guards. They shoved the prisoner forward. He fell to his knees before the twins. His gaze burned into them. "There they are," he whispered. "The future, the mistake, the weapon." The twins tilted their heads, 12 unblinking eyes glowing. Their shells rippled faint green, the color of curiosity. Ryan stiffened. "What do you mean, weapon?" The scientist sneered. "You humans do not understand. These heirs are not ordinary. They are not even purely Vexillonian. Their minds have already crossed into something new." Krex stepped forward sharply. "Explain." The scientist laughed, a hollow, broken sound. "We studied the patterns. Their neural signals are not stable. They do not match the old code of your kind. They are evolving beyond it. And do you know what they mirror instead?" His eyes locked on Ryan, his voice dropped. "Human cognition." Ryan's stomach flipped. "What?" The prisoner hissed. "Their minds are shaping like yours, fast. Adaptable, reckless, dangerous. That is why our sabotage failed. Vexillonian engineers think in straight lines. Predictable logic. But these children thought in spirals, like humans do." Krex's antennae froze, his body stiffened. He looked at Ryan with something between fear and accusation. The twins stood silent. Their shells shifted to deep silver. They spoke in eerie harmony. "We are not mistake, we are not weapon. We are truth," the scientist snarled. "You are the end when evolution leaps forward. It crushes what is left behind." Ryan clenched his fists, his voice low. "No, that's not how it has to be." He turned to the twins. "You're not monsters, you're kids. You don't have to become what they fear." The twins' 12 eyes locked on him. Their antennae flicked once. Their shells glowed faint blue, they whispered together. But what do we want to become? The question pierced Ryan deeper than any weapon. Because he didn't know the answer, not for them. Not even for himself. That night, as the fires outside dimmed, Ryan was summoned to the Queen's private chamber. Queen Zarana stood before a window of living crystal, staring at the battlefield below. Her armor reflected the flames, her voice was low, dangerous. You have seen what my children are. Ryan stayed silent. His throat was dry, the Queen turned, her eyes sharp. Do you think I do not know? I felt it the day they were born. Their minds pulsed wrong. Twisted, too fast, too bright. The elders whispered they were cursed. But I knew the truth, they were something else. Her antennae trembled. Now the galaxy knows they will call them weapons, monsters, abominations. Ryan's jaw tightened. And what will you call them? The Queen's eyes flicked. For a moment her face cracked, softer than stone. They are my blood, she whispered. But they are also the storm that may drown us all. She stepped closer, towering above Ryan. And you, human janitor, you are part of the storm, Ryan blinked. Me? I'm no one, her mandibles clicked. No one. They listen to you, they obey you, they mirror you. Perhaps their evolution is not accident. Perhaps it is infection. Perhaps it is you. Ryan's heart pounded. I didn't make them this way, he said. I just treated them like they mattered. The Queen's gaze burned into him. That may be the most dangerous act of all. Later, in the nursery, Ryan sat with the twins. The palace still vibrated with distant battles. The children leaned close, their voices hushed. They fear us, Zik said. They want to control us, Zach added. Ryan sighed. Yes, some will try to chain you. Some will try to use you, but you're more than their fear. The twins studied him. Their shells glowing in shifting colors. Green for mischief. Blue for calm, silver for thought for the first time. Ryan saw all three at once, blending. We trust you, they said together. Their voices a single echo. Ryan swallowed hard. He felt the weight of their words, heavier than any chain. They didn't just trust him, they needed him. Without him, they might fall to the galaxy's fear. With him, they might rise, but deep inside, Ryan knew the truth. He wasn't just their caretaker anymore, he was their compass, and if he failed, the galaxy would pay the price at the summit's next gathering. The twins walked at Ryan's side, calm and silent. But their antennae tapped secret codes only he understood. And when the first ambassador rose to speak, the heirs whispered to Ryan, he is lying. Diplomacy and deception. The Grand Assembly Hall of Vexilin Prime glowed with living crystal. Its walls shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that shifted with every sound. Representatives from more than 50 species filled the chamber. Their voices a chorus of promises, threats, and lies. Ryan stood at the edge of the royal platform. His borrowed ceremonial uniform itched under the alien lights. The twins sat beside their mother, Queen Zarana, their shells glowing calm blue, their antennae still on the surface. They looked like obedient heirs, but Ryan knew better. A soft tap against his wrist, he glanced down. The twins' antennae flicked again, a signal from the spy code they had built together. Deception detected. Ryan's gaze swept across the delegates. A tall ambassador with silver fur from the Proyan Collective was speaking, his voice smooth, his gestures polished. He spoke of peace, of cooperation, of trust. The hall rippled with murmurs of approval. But the twins' shells darkened to sharp green. Their signal for danger. Ryan leaned closer to them, whispering just enough for them to hear. Where? His second heart beats too fast. Zix murmured without moving his mandibles. His subordinates avoid his eyes, Zach added, their voices a whisper like moving air. He lies. Ryan's stomach twisted. He knew they were right. The Proyans had already tried sabotage. Now they stood here smiling, spreading poison with words. Queen Zarana's compound eyes swept the chamber. Unreadable. But Ryan caught the faint twitch of her antennae. She had noticed something too. The ambassador continued. The tragic sabotage was the act of extremists. Not our collective, we come with open hands. Not blades. Ryan wanted to shout liar, but he kept silent. His place was not to speak, not here. But the twins leaned forward. Their shells pulsing faint gold, their game mode. Permission to speak, Mother? Zix asked suddenly, his childlike voice carrying across the chamber. Gasps echoed. Royal heirs rarely spoke during summits. Krex, the first minister, stiffened in alarm. But the Queen raised one hand. You may, Zix rose, his twin following. Their shells shifted to soft purple, the color of formality. Together they bowed to the assembly. Their voices blended. We are told this was the act of extremists. We are told the collective had no part. The Proyan ambassador forced a smile. That is correct, young heirs. The twins tilted their heads in unison, 12 eyes unblinking. Their antennae flicked once. A secret code to Ryan, watch carefully. Then why? Zack asked, his tone soft but sharp as glass. Do your guards carry transmitters tuned to sabotage frequencies? The chamber exploded in noise, delegates shouted, some in outrage, others in surprise. The Proyan ambassador froze, his fur bristling. Krex's mandibles clattered in shock. Explain yourself, he demanded. Guards rushed forward. Scanning devices revealed the hidden transmitters. Proyan guards stumbled, dragged down in chains. Their ambassador sputtered, this is a misunderstanding. But the twins' shells flared red. Lie, they said together. Calm as stone. The queen rose slowly, her full height towering, her armor glowing with storm patterns. The heirs of Vexilin speak truth, she thundered. You insult this assembly with treachery, the Proyan ambassador stammered. But his words drowned under the fury of the chamber. Ryan felt his knees weaken, his heart pounded. The twins had just shifted the entire summit with a single accusation. And worse, they had been right later in the private chamber. The queen's eyes burned into Ryan. Your methods made this possible, she said. Her voice low, dangerous, but not unkind. Your human games unmasked what warriors and diplomats could not. Ryan swallowed hard. They saw what no one else did. They're brilliant, Your Majesty. But they're still children, the queen's mandibles clicked. Children who may have saved a galaxy from war. The twins stood behind Ryan, glowing gold with pride. But he saw the exhaustion in their eyes. They had enjoyed the game, but they had also carried the weight of truth, a weight heavy enough to crush grown leaders. That night, Ryan paced in his quarters. He replayed the moment again and again, their voices cutting through lies, the hall exploding, the queen's pride. But in the corner of his mind, fear whispered, what happens when children can expose any lie? What happens when truth itself becomes their weapon? He lay down, unable to sleep, through the thin wall. He heard the twins' whispers, their voices fast, electric, like sparks in the dark. They weren't just replaying the day, they were planning, analyzing, preparing. And Ryan realized with a cold shiver, they weren't just children anymore. They were becoming something far greater, something the galaxy had never seen. At the climax of the summit, the twins face a final trap, a betrayal hidden even deeper. Ryan must choose, protect them as children or unleash what they are becoming. The choice will decide not only their future, but the alliance of three worlds. The impossible choice. The second day of the summit began under shadow. The great crystal spires of the palace caught the light of three suns, but Ryan felt only cold. Rumors raced through the halls. The Proyans had been caught in lies, yet the collective still held power. If the queen pressed too hard, the fragile talks could collapse into war. Ryan walked with the twins toward the grand assembly, their small forms in ceremonial armor glowing faint blue, calm, polite, unreadable, yet their antennae flicked with hidden signals only he could read. Tension rising, deception ahead. Krex, the first minister, moved at their side, his scales tight with stress. The queen will push for evidence today, he whispered. If the Proyans deny again, war factions may rise. Ryan clenched his fists. He didn't want war. He didn't want these children dragged deeper into danger. But he had no choice. They had already become central to everything. The grand assembly blazed with voices. Delegates shouted over one another. The queen stood tall and fierce. We demand accountability, she declared. Our heirs exposed hidden transmitters. Will you deny this truth before the eyes of the galaxy? The Proyan High Counselor rose, his silver fur bristling. We deny nothing. We acknowledge extremists among us, but we will not let Vexilin dictate the collective's honor. Murmurs shook the chamber. Allies shifting, rivals watching, Ryan's gut twisted. He had seen this game before in smaller halls back on Earth. Politics dressed as survival. But here the stakes were planets. The twins leaned forward, their shells glowing with subtle gold. Ryan's heart dropped. He knew that color. It was their game code for observation mode. Permission to speak, Zik said, his small voice echoing. The chamber fell silent again. Krex flinched. But Queen Zorana lifted her hand. Speak. Zack's mandibles clicked as he rose. We saw more than transmitters yesterday. Ryan's stomach nodded. What are you doing? Zix continued. The sabotage code was not only Proyan. His shell flared orange. It carried Vexillonian patterns, too. The chamber gasped. Chaos roared like a storm. Delegates shouted. Some cried betrayal, others demanded proof. The Queen's carapace darkened like thunderclouds. Explain, she thundered. The twins looked at Ryan. Their compound eyes unreadable. Show them, they whispered. Ryan froze. He pulled from his belt the data crystal given by Mira, the Proyan scientist. His fingers shook as he placed it into the chamber's projection node. Light burst above the hall. Neural maps, sabotage code, genetic markers. The patterns told a story no one wanted to see. Proyan signatures, yes, but woven with Vexillonian keys. And Ryan's breath caught. Human code fragments, too. The chamber erupted, 3 species, 3 signatures. Sabotage built by Unity, Zix said. His voice calm as stone. Not extremists, Zach added. A faction across borders. Ryan's blood went cold. A shadow alliance, hidden. Manipulating all sides, not Proyans alone. Not Vexillonians alone, not humans alone, but traitors from each. The Queen's mandibles clattered with fury. Who dares? Suddenly the lights flickered. A deep tremor shook the chamber. Delegates screamed, guards raised weapons. From the high galleries, black drones swooped down. Silent and sharp. Assassins. Ryan lunged forward, grabbing the twins. Pulling them close, energy bolts seared the air. Krex barked orders. Guards clashed with drones. The assembly turned into chaos, Mother. The twins cried, reaching toward the Queen, but Ryan held them tight. Stay down. One drone dived at them. Ryan swung a fallen guard staff. Striking sparks, it veered, firing a bolt that burned the floor inches from Zach's feet. The Queen roared, her exoskeleton blazing with stormlight. She cut through 3 drones with her bare claws. But more came, dozens. The twins' shells flared crimson. They pushed free of Ryan's grip. Their antennae glowed with eerie light. We can end this, they said together. No. Ryan shouted, You're just kids! Zix turned, compound eyes glowing with something not childlike at all. We are heirs. And then the air bent, gravity warped. Drones twisted midair and smashed against the walls. Delegates screamed as the twins rose slightly above the floor, their shells pulsing in violent light. Their voices thundered in unison. Enough! The chamber froze. Silence after storm, dozens of drones lay shattered. Guards stood stunned. The Queen herself stared at her children with awe and fear. Ryan's chest heaved, his hands shook. He had never seen power like this, not machines. Not weapons, pure will bending the world. The twins floated down slowly, their glow fading. They turned to Ryan, their voices softer now. We chose not to kill. We stopped only. Ryan fell to his knees. Relief crashed over him, but terror too. What would the galaxy make of this? Children who could end wars with a thought. Later, in the sealed royal chamber, the Queen faced Ryan alone. The twins slept in the next room, exhaustion finally overtaking them, you saw, she said. Her eyes glimmered with both pride and sorrow. They are beyond us, beyond even me, Ryan swallowed. They need guidance, not fear, not control. If you treat them as weapons, you'll lose them. The Queen tilted her head. And you believe you can guide them? Ryan looked at the sleeping twins through the crystal partition. Not alone, but maybe with both our worlds together. Maybe with trust. The Queen's mandibles clicked softly, almost a laugh. Then perhaps this is the alliance the galaxy truly fears, not armies, not treaties. But children who refuse to be bound by old rules. Ryan met her many eyes. And a human janitor who was too stubborn to quit. For a moment. Silence, then the Queen extended one massive clawed hand. Then guide them, teach them, protect them. For if they lose their path, the galaxy will fall. Ryan placed his hand against hers. I promise. 5 years later, the Tri-Species Academy stood where the palace gardens once bloomed. Human, Vexillonian, and Proyan children learned together. At the heart of it all were Zix and Zach. No longer mischievous children, but young leaders. Their shells glowed with every color as they taught others the same spy codes. The same games of truth Ryan watched from the observation deck. Older, scarred, but proud. The impossible had happened. And it began because one janitor refused to walk away from 2 impossible children. The galaxy whispered of war, but found peace instead, not through weapons, but through curiosity, play, and truth, and through a human who proved, sometimes the most unlikely guide can change the stars.